Good evening. I now call the Planning and Zoning Commission to order for the meeting of June 12th, 2023. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Sandy Griffiths.
Thank you, Chair. Please join me in the pledge.
Item number 4 is roll call.
Chairperson Zurcher.
Here.
Vice Chairperson King.
Here.
Commissioner Laney. Here. Commissioner Griffiths.
Here.
Commissioner Evans.
Here.
Commissioner Rankin.
Here.
Commissioner Rutherford.
Moving on to item number 5, approval of minutes. We have 2 minutes to approve. We have the May 8th, 2023 study session minutes and the May 8th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the May 8th, 2023 study session minutes?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, please, to approve the minutes of the May 8th, 2023 study session.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Moving on to the May 8th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Chairman, I move that we approve the May 8th regular meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Can't hear me?
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to item number 6, announcements. Any staff announcements? Okay. I'll just go into my opening statement then. Good evening, my name is Matt Zurcher. I'm the chairperson of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I'll be presiding over the Commission's deliberation on hearing items this evening. Planning and Zoning Commission sits in an advisory capacity to the Town Council and reviews planning and zoning issues and forwards recommendations regarding these important issues to the Town Council. The Commission is bound by specific regulations and guidelines for considering applications, and there are also a surprising number of things this Commission cannot take into consideration when reviewing an application. Finally, members of the Commission are volunteers and not paid employees of the town. This evening's proceedings will be conducted using the following format. First, I'll read the hearing application into the record. Once the application has been read into the record, staff will present the case and the recommendations to the Commission. Members of the Planning and Zoning Commission will then direct any questions they have regarding the application to staff. After the Commission completes its initial review of the application, the applicant will have an opportunity to comment regarding the matter and answer any questions. After the applicant has completed their comments, I'll open the floor to general comments from the public regarding the current application being discussed. So, and we have, basically this is a repeat of our last meeting, folks. This evening we will be hearing zoning map change 23-001 along with preliminary development plan 23-001. We also hear zoning map change 23-002 and preliminary development plan 23-002 together. After everything is said and done, we'll then open the floor to public comment. And at that time, I'll just read the rules for public comment at that time. So moving on, we'll just get into it. Is zoning map under public hearing items and under action items is zoning map change 23-001 upon the application of Marcella Mora Yatko, authorized agent for owner, Prescott Valley Holdings LLC, a request for a zoning map change from R1-MH, residential single-family mobile manufactured homes, and C2, commercial general sales and services, to RSPAD, residential and services planned area development, on approximately 33 acres located at the northwest corner of Market Street and Great Western Drive. Preliminary development plan 23-001 upon the application of Marcella Mora Yatko, authorized agent for owner, Prescott Valley Holding LLC, request for preliminary development plan approval for the villas at Prescott Valley comprising up to 385 leased multifamily dwelling units on approximately 33 acres located at the northwest corner of Market Street and Great Western Drive. Presenting this evening is Jessica Bargan. Take it away, Jessica.
Thank you, Chairperson Zurcher and fellow commissioners. Before you again this evening, I will be presenting the continuation for your consideration of those two items you mentioned. Both of them will be presented concurrently and will require two separate motions. As mentioned, it's ZMC 23-001 to rezone an existing R1MH zone and a C2 commercial general sales zone under the planned area development, approximately 32 gross acres, and it is to become a RS zone, residential services. So these are being proposed. The location is in the Glassford Regional Marketplace. This area is designated community commercial. Again, this is directly from our general plan showing the area and the intention for that area. Again, showing you the location and the surrounding area. Blinking here, the existing zoning classifications. The proposed classification. Here is a little bit more information showing the number of units that are approved on these surrounding sites. Proposed here is the preliminary development plan. As was mentioned in the last last meeting we had, the adoption of the 2035 plan does support the proposed rezoning of this area to RS zone. It would be appropriate and it is allowed in this designation. Additional details on the surrounding number of units did show that it will be lower than what is surrounding, and the number will be contingent upon further engineering modifications due to some of those topographical challenges. The main access roads will be from Market and the future Jasper Parkway, which was stipulated in to be completed prior to the final occupancy. I'm sorry. And Fire Department did provide their approval of the latest preliminary development plan that's shown here, and it will be reflected as part of the final development plan as well. The applicant also provided transit impact analysis, which both of their transit engineer and our town's engineering team will be working to perfect prior to the final development plan. And these recommendations will be more specific to the improvement of the level of service F that it is designated in the area. The interior landscape requirements are met. That is 10% is the minimum, and this site does meet the minimum requirements for internal landscaping. They are in a collaborative effort with the applicant. We are in a collaborative effort with the applicant to show proposed pedestrian gravel trail from Market leading to the northwest portion of the town, the town's owned parcel, towards the top of your screen on the far left side. And this is to better integrate into the town's trail system and into that design. For further reference, this area, the vision is for it to be a gateway to Prescott, and these are some of the main the trails and showing you where the location is in proximity to that. A neighborhood meeting was held on Thursday, March 2nd, 2023, with all the property owners within 1,000 feet having been notified via first-class mail. 4 members of the public were present, including the applicant, and that there was no negative comments that were received back. This item will be required to also have the 2% rent surcharge on all the rental units, and this surcharge will be applied as a condition of the rezoning to support residential uses that would not necessarily produce the ongoing TPT tax revenues for the town. With that said, this request is up for your consideration. It is in conformance with the general plan, and the zoning map change is supported by staff. We also do request your support and recommendation for approval to the town council of the preliminary development plan, subject to the stipulations that are outlined in your packet. And the applicant is here, would like to also present some further information for you. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Jessica. At this time, we'll open up for questions from the commission to staff. Any questions from the commission? Go for it.
Jessica, did you not say there were about 400 people in attendance at the meeting?
4 people,
Oh, 4.
4 people,
Okay.
including the applicant.
That's all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, staff? Commissioner Evans?
Just curious, as a matter of, like, for frame of reference purposes, under the existing zoning, how many units could be built there as opposed to the number of units that are proposed to be built with the zoning map change?
That's a great question. I believe that with the R1 MH and C2, the C2 doesn't have very many limitations. The one, R1 MH, I don't have the exact number. I believe it was 12 units an acre.
12 an acre, okay.
Any other questions from the commission of staff at this time? Seeing none, thank you, Jessica. We'll invite the applicant up.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Can you get it?
How do I escape out of here?
I think if you hit escape, it will work. Or maybe go back, see the little.
Gosh, it's not popping up here. I did. Let me escape this and show. Sorry about that. Okay.
There we go.
Is that the wrong one?
Give us a second, folks.
that's it.
A few
Sorry about
technical
that.
difficulties loading this this PowerPoint.
Okay. Sorry.
There we go.
Okay, here we go. Thank you.
Just another thing I have to add to my list of thanking Jess for, so.
Good evening. Go ahead and state your name again for the record.
Good evening. My name is Mary Grace McNear. I'm with the law firm Buse Gilbert McGroder, and I represent Prescott Valley Holdings, LLC, the owner of this property that's being rezoned tonight. So, let me get my clicker, and I'll leave the... That's what we're going to go through tonight while I introduce myself, and with me tonight is my client, John Boniface. Larry Wendell is also here from Prescott Valley Holdings, and then our engineering team, Greg Shaner, and Scott Barnhart, who is our traffic engineer. They're all here in case you have any specific questions for them. So we're very happy to be here again tonight. Tonight feels a lot more smooth and kind of tethered than we did feel last time. So thank you so much for making time for us last time and for seeing us again tonight. So to let you know, we are here applying for a rezoning of the site outlined above there. It's 32.91 acres across 2 parcels. It's currently vacant, located north of Market Street on the Great Western Drive alignment, south of Glassford Hill. Our request is for a zone map change and a preliminary development plan approval. So those will be 2 separate motions. We're requesting the change from, the proposed use is a for-rent townhome, single-family community. So I'll go through this a little slower than Jessica did. The current zoning is 22.5 acres of the R1 MH, or the mobile home, single family, and 11.3 acres of C2. And we're proposing to combine the 2 parcels and rezone it to RS PAD It's surrounded by other RSPAD properties. There is some C2 PAD as well. Glassford Dells Regional Park is directly north of the site, and it's zoned RCU. Rezoning the properties will maintain compatibility with the surrounding properties and add value to the area for sure. So I wanted to also mention, in addition to what Jessica told you about the general plan, the community commercial is the general plan designation, and the R1 MH is not consistent with the general plan designation. So this change of zoning will bring the property in conformance with the general plan designation. The community commercial does allow for a neighborhood and community serving commercial uses. As you can see, you can, under community commercial in the general plan, you can be either C1, C2, or RS, which is what we're proposing. So our development will be 385 attached single-family units, 193 two-bedroom units, 192 three-bedroom units. It'll be a gated residential development with private roads and utilities. They're all for rent, but there will be an opportunity. We are metering it and setting it up so that these can be converted to for-sale units in the future if the market is right. So the two-bedroom units are, they're all 2 stories. The two-bedroom units are the Woodland, and the three-bedroom units are the Rangewater. You can see these nice renderings. Here are the elevations for the Woodland and Rangewater units. And for the Woodland units, I'll let you know that those are 1,100 square feet for the two-bedroom ones and 1,400 square feet for the Rangewater units. So let's talk about the site plan a little bit. We've re-engineered at the request of staff, and rightly so, some of the walls, the retaining walls along the outside, the western and northern side of the site. You can see the topography is a challenge on this site. The maximum lot coverage is 55%, and so we're pretty proud of ourselves that we got the lot coverage down. We're providing 30% open space, which is also in excess of the code. But we've got about 21% lot coverage for the units. It's 12 units per net acre, and the setbacks are per code. Heights are 2 stories, and we're complying with all code requirements regarding walls. In terms of the parking, we're providing more than what's required. 40 spaces more. We'll have a primary gated entry on Market Street and a secondary access point along Jasper Parkway. Again, you may remember some of this stuff from last time when we were here, but there are substantial changes here to comply with, and because we work with staff and to comply with what they were asking us to do. And so we're happy to do that. So the next 2 slides are just more close-up on the site plan. And you'll see we do have sidewalks on both sides of the street, as we were requested to do. That's another change that we incorporated based on staff and your feedback, frankly. So let's spend a couple minutes on the landscaping, open space, and amenities. We've got a lot of landscaped area, a lot of usable landscaped areas, and we're complying with all the landscape requirements of the code. It complies with the code. It's set up in a really nice arrangement for this kind of a lifestyle. And We are aware and excited that this site is directly adjacent to the Glassford Dales Regional Park. So we're going to include trailhead connectivity, and I'll talk about that in another moment. And I think I mentioned before, we're exceeding the code's open space requirements. So let's talk about pedestrian connectivity. We've got sidewalks on both sides of the street. This is a new graphic from the last time I was here. And you'll see how you can make your way all around the development. And we have a trail access. I want to be clear that we are wanting to provide and willing to provide trail access either along the north side or along the west side, up to that 1 acre parcel up at the northwest corner outside our site. Whatever way that works out better in terms of engineering and placement, whenever the time comes, we will put one or the other of those trails in. That is, we will also have that trail at the top. If you can see at the entrance, the furthest to the east, the closest to Jasper Parkway there, that will be private trail connectivity. But coming up the street, the purple line from Jasper Parkway will be for the public. So one way or the other, we will reach your 1 acre parcel up there, which I believe is programmed for, to fit in for trailheads and a little rest area and benches and so forth. So speaking of the traffic impacts, this is another thing we worked on quite extensively between last meeting and now. We are going to build the off-site improvements will be our half-street improvements on Jasper Parkway and Market Street. So we're going to pay for our proportionate share of the new Jasper Parkway. We did a little, I think I reported to you last time, and we have since brought up submitted the signed supplement to our traffic study, which shows that the traffic generated is reduced by 68% compared to the zoning that it has now. If you change it to our zoning, you will have 68% less traffic. That's mostly because of the C2 use on the parcel on the Jasper Parkway side. Anyway, we're going to account for all of our traffic, and we're going to build Jasper Parkway up to provide access to our parcel, and then the Jasper development north of us will build whenever they need access. So just for a minute, I know Jess spoke about this, and we did have a question. There are the results of our neighborhood meeting and our notice letters. The people who attended our meeting were county residents, and they were concerned about either our development kind of taking over their development, which we assured them that we have no plans for, or they also were interested in getting town services for sewer and water. And we talked a little bit about how we would be building for our development, and our development might become public at some later time, but it would be serving our development. And otherwise, they said they loved the look of it to be neighbors with it, as Jess mentioned. So I just want to go over what we think are the highlights and the benefits. This is going to develop some vacant property into a really beautiful gateway for your regional park and your regional park programming that's coming up here. It provides a high quality a product to diversify the housing options. It provides more housing, increases your housing options, supports the development and intent of the Glassford Dells Regional Park, and brings that R1MH parcel into conformance with the general plan. So I'm just gonna, that's kind of a new rendering of the amenity area. And I wanted to just show you all that. And I think I'm just going to leave it on those slides. If you have any questions for me, I'm here, happy to see you, and interested in any questions you have.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open it up for questions from the commission of the applicant. Commissioner Rankin?
In the additional information that we got, the second package where you were agreeing to all the separate items.
Yes, sir.
I just tried to find it again, but did I see in there that you had decided not to phase the project, that you were going to do everything at once, or are you still going to phase it?
I'm not sure if that decision has changed or not. I welcome my client, John Boniface.
Good evening.
Or was it my imagination?
We will phase, at 385 units, we will phase the construction. How we do that will be subject really to logistics. So once we have full engineering, once we have a contractor on board to work through the logistics of what makes sense, then we'll decide how we exactly phase the project.
Thanks, Dad.
Commissioner Evans?
Just a question on your intent possibly to sort of go condo on this at some point if the market dictates. I sent a quick inquiry off to the Arizona Department of Real Estate just out of curiosity, and I know a little bit about it in California, but not Arizona. Would there be any, the DRA responded quickly, but they said talk to a lawyer, so that was kind of cute. If you do go to a for sale product after it's built as rentals, is there any municipal involvement in that process, or that's purely between you and the DRE?
Pretty much between us and the Department of Real Estate. We would then, it would be a subdivision issue. So as long as we met the city's or the town's subdivision requirements, that's how it would work.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Laney?
Sorry, I keep forgetting to turn the button on.
No worries.
I'm sure you've done your homework and your facts and figures. Have you figured out what you're going to charge for rent for the 2- and 3-bedroom units?
Yes. Right now, the 2-bedroom units are going to be in the low 2,000s per month, and the 3-bedroom units would be in the mid 2,000s per month.
Okay, low and mid. Next question is, getting demographics on the town of Prescott Valley. Our median income is $60,033. Who is going to be able to pay those rents? I'm concerned about the rents.
Well, I'm pretty sure that, we'll have Mr. Boniface speak to this one.
So that's a hard question to answer.
I know it is.
We've underwritten, these units will be occupied probably starting 3 years from now, by the time we do horizontal permitting, horizontal development, vertical construction. So we're trying to solve for something that the world's going to change quite a bit between now and then. So with all of the data that we have today, that's what our model is showing. And so all of the figures of, to your point, the demographics, the healthcare, the people, as people get more remote relative to their work, this is a place of choice. So that millennial, that empty nester, those folks who have proven that they will pay those rents. And the other thing that we have to do here, the cost of the land development, the cost of the land period, the cost of vertical construction, interest rates, et cetera, home costs are just rising. And so something of a similar build on the for sale side, which is the reason that we're not coming out of the gates with a for sale component today, is that the opportunity to own something like this is materially higher right now on the average of $800 to $1,000 per unit higher on just a monthly payment, independent of any sort of a deposit or a down payment. So those folks are choosing to pay a higher proportion of their income on housing in general, really across the country.
Yeah, because based upon the rental, you're looking at payment on a $450,000 home. So that's pretty high, I think, but then. And would it be possible, because you're doing it in phases, with the market changing, could you do lesser density?
So that's because every number plays with each other, and so as density goes down, our costs don't necessarily go down. Actually, the cost per unit increases, which means what we would have to charge to make it feasible goes up. So what we're always trying to do is solve for an appropriate density and an appropriate price point so that we can serve our residents in a reasonable fashion.
Commissioner King?
Yes, thank you so much. If you could please go back to the slide for me that lists the benefits of.
Yes.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. So here I see the benefits, and I appreciate you putting this whole thing together. Thank you so much. What struck me was the supports the development intent of Glassford Dells Regional Park. Can you, just the best you can, you know, off the cuff, can you summarize for me how you believe that this project supports the development of the Dells Regional Park?
Well, I think that the trail connectivity is a big deal. And we envision people who live in the villas are going to use the park. We're giving an opportunity for the public to access the park on an improved trail that goes across our property, and they can access the city property and the park from there. We think it's going to be a really high-quality, attractive development. Go ahead.
I'd just like to add one thing to that. Just what we understand, the vision that Glassford Dells ultimately operates as a hub for hotel, retail, experiential retail, commercial uses. The wave of development, as I'm sure you always know, it always starts with rooftops. So you've got to get residential in there to start supporting, so that if I'm a retail developer, I know that there's a secure place for me to go make an investment of my business. And so those rooftops help add an insulation to the outside investment on the commercial side that will follow those rooftops.
Wow.
Any other questions, Commissioner King? Commissioner Griffiths?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nice to see you again, Mary Grace. Thank you for being here. I heard from Jessica's presentation that due to the topography of the retaining walls, and maybe I misunderstood this, that the density numbers could come down. So is there any truth to that these density numbers can come down? Because I will let you know right now, I am not enamored with the density.
Thank you, Commissioner Griffiths. And I noticed that too. I don't believe that any re-engineering is going to be done on those walls that will reduce the density count. As you just heard John describe, I think the density count is very important for this owner, because there's only one way to make this project. And the topography concern is that there is a fall across the site from west to east of about 130 feet, according to my layperson's recollection. And that makes it very difficult to, build on it, I guess. And so, no, I don't expect that the density will be reduced. And I'll just check that with John.
That's correct. And one thing that you'll notice that our design team has done really well is the strategic placement of those units as you go west to east, and as the topography falls down, you end up, as you look to the east, you have an incredible view. And so what we've tried to do is provide a density that's appropriate. We have to park it well. We have to provide a feel within our boundaries that make people, it really drives interaction. Because what we're doing ultimately is we're building a community. And a community means multiple people and families are interacting with one another. So we drive interaction, and we look to create opportunities to interact outside of our property lines as well. And so that's one thing that topo and those strategically placed retaining walls really help do, I think, nicely on this site.
It's a tough site.
It is.
It's a tough site. Have you, and it's probably too late in the game to ask this question, but why this particular product on that site? Is there another product that could have been developed to bring in more of a family-friendly community instead of 385 line-by-line, two-story townhomes?
Sure. So there's a lot of analytics that go into exactly what our product is, and most of that revolves around what do our customers want. And when you couple functionality with price point, what we are solving for is the program that our folks need within their home, and at a square footage that allows us on the cost side to deliver a rental price point that is achievable for the resident. So it all plays together, but our fundamental focus is on the program that these folks need within their home.
Don't sit down.
Okay.
How did you do a survey in our area to find out what the fundamental principles are that folks might need in their home? Did you do a survey on our community, or are you taking what you developed in other states and trying to bring it here?
Yep, so it's more around to your point, the demographic. So that millennial young couple wants a certain lifestyle, they want certain conveniences, they don't want a lot of extra space, they want minimal, call it upkeep. And so there are things that those folks want regardless of whether they live in Prescott Valley or whether they live in Atlanta, Georgia, or you name it. So there's some kind of principal components that we carry across to all of our communities.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I have one more question
Go
for
for it.
Mary Grace, please. In the package, the matrix that was prepared, somebody did a lot of work on that, so thank you. On page 15, you made a comment that the open space, at first you said will exceed 30%, and then a statement was made that it will meet the town's standards. This matrix has exceed 30% crossed out in it. So what exactly is the open space?
Sorry for that confusion. We redesigned the plan to include sidewalks on both sides of the street. And that did reduce the open space, but only to 30%. Okay. And the code requirement is less, I believe. I didn't write down.
Is
The code requirement is 10%. Thank you. And so, yes, we have 30% open space. And the question, I think you're looking at a draft or something, and so the question, I guess, is that was coming out in the draft. We weren't sure we were going to make that 30% or exceed it, and so I think we did exceed it before we put sidewalks on both sides, and now it's 30% open space.
one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Arda, your turn is coming.
Hopefully she's asking all of your questions, yeah.
Mary Grace, what
Yes,
is
ma'am.
your idea of open space? What do you see, and what do you
Well-
feel open space is in this tight-knit community?
The code defines open space, so I'm using the code's definition of open space. And it includes all of the open space between the, let's see. Open space is defined by the code, and it's everything that you see that's green. And between the units, let's see if I have a better. Now, that's still probably the best showing of open space. So we're using a code definition.
So looking at this outline in this photo where it says open green space in a couple areas, I see that one of them has a shade structure. Are you planning on doing any other maybe potential tables or areas where families might be able to go sit and put puzzles together or something for the outside?
I think that as the site plan comes in, as the plan gets more detail, yes, there would be definitely, opportunity for that.
Because you've made a couple statements, this is family, millennial. It's quite important to have these features for our families.
Thank you. Yes, we'll take that feedback.
Okay, thank you, Miss Mary Grace.
You're quite welcome.
Commissioner Rutherford, did you have any questions for the applicant? I do have some questions. Looking at this slide in particular, it looks to me, and if you want to go into the expanded slide as well of the project, it looks to me like the only visitor parking is along basically the dog park and the clubhouse. Am I seeing that correctly?
I think so, but we're gonna go back to where it talks about. I was hoping, where's my parking slide? Sorry. Huh. Sorry. I think that is true. The only visitor parking we have is by the amenity center and the public,
I realize in your
clubhouse.
presentation you said you're exceeding that, but I can tell you just by looking at the entire site plan, there's no visitor parking to the south side of that project near Market Street. That to me is baffling, and why wouldn't that be the case?
Let's go to this, it's slide 14.
And again, the reason I'm bringing up visitor parking is because we have a major issue, as you're probably aware, on
Yes.
Market Street with visitors to the terraces parking along Market Street. I don't want to see that at all. And I think that having just the visitor parking, if I'm seeing this correctly, just to the north side of the project and nothing on the south side of the project, that's very problematic.
Okay, so it looks like at the clubhouse and the amenity area, but at the amenity area on the south, I think we have some, let's,
Don't see anything on the map. That's why I'm asking.
off-street parking is, at the clubhouse is 40. That's right. The only off-street parking we have is at the clubhouse and in the amenity area.
Like I said, I'm going to have a problem with that.
John?
I think that's a great point, and I'm just
Yeah, I
looking
see
at,
what
I
you're
think,
saying.
does that have a laser?
It doesn't.
At the amenity area to the south, I think, and Greg, tell me if I'm saying something that's not practical, but at the northwest corner of that entry block, I think we should and could put some visitor parking right there. And if that means we have to dial back a unit and figure something out, then I agree we should put some visitor parking there.
Definitely, the more the merrier as far as I'm concerned.
And you're right, that Market Street area, right south of us, right south of Market Street, lot of units going in there too.
In your presentation, you said the primary access was going to be on Market Street.
Right.
I don't think it needs to be on Market Street. I think your primary access should be on Jasper and your secondary should be on Market Street. And I think I'd like to see that switched, if you don't mind, if you wouldn't mind that. Because the problem being is Market Street and Great Western, the infrastructure up there does not support the additional, and I could tell you this because the roads up there are horrible. I realize you're willing to do things, but the infrastructure does not support the additional vehicles up there. I can tell you that right now. You're proposing 385 units times 2 cars. We're looking at almost 800 vehicles for this project. And I have very strong concerns about utilizing Market Street as a primary access. And again, same thing with the visitor parking. It's just very problematic, especially, and I can tell you, when we approved the last project up on this area, I had reservations even then about approving anything else up in this area because it's just our infrastructure up there does not support the connectivity. I'm sorry. Market Street dead ends at basically Sundog Ranch Road. There is no four-way stop or three-way stop there. People turning left onto Sundog Ranch Road could be waiting there a long time. If you go to Jasper Parkway, yes, you're going to be able to get onto Jasper Parkway and get a signal at 69, and then Great Western, it's only a right turn only. So again, the traffic connectivity is a major concern for me up there in that area, and it's, I mean, from what I'm seeing right now, it's just, again, I'm having heartburn over it.
I'll speak to that. So I think you can see that ultimately, because there's, to your point about phasing, there's something that will make sense today, and then there's something that will make sense when it's complete. So you can see that the access, to your point, is set up so that it will be off of Jasper. You can see how it comes right into the clubhouse, so that's going to lend itself. Ultimately, our vision is that that does become the main, but in the intermediary, Market Street is probably going to want to be the main point of access until we hit a critical mass, and Jasper Parkway is
Honestly,
fully functional.
I don't see that working, to be quite honest with you. I'll be honest with you, I just don't see that working with the other projects that have been approved up there. That's just not a good plan. I'll be honest with you. Jasper Parkway, your entrance on Jasper needs to come first. That's just the hard truth on this project. Other things that I want, if you wanted to know if you could answer this or kind of give me a good reason on this one. So I was talking to someone last week about this project, and they said, oh, great, Glassford Hill's going to look like an anthill.
Look like a what?
An anthill with all this. How would you answer something like that?
I don't fully understand what that comment really means, because we're not actually on.
Adjusted right in that area with all the growth and so forth. So
Yeah.
I'm just wanting to know if you can, what could you say to someone that, says something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I would invite someone to stand on the southern side and look out and see how the topography and what Glassford Hills, what your park will be, dwarfs the development. And you can use the apartment building there as an example. You can see the hills behind it and what y'all are doing there. I would disagree with that person.
Okay.
Well, I guess I would also say, what's the alternative? Do you want to look at, I think this is something pretty nice to look at and to bring people in. It's a low traffic generator compared to the C2 that's there. And if it was developed as C2 and mobile homes, I don't think that's going to give you much of a better view. Then it'll be an anthill with people, parking in the commercial and climbing up the hill anyway. I mean, that is going, that regional park is going to attract people. And the question is, how can you, make it as good for the community as you can? And I think this is a great alternative. So.
No, Commissioner Griffiths, you had an additional question?
Thank you, Chair. I have a soft spot in my heart for the brush truck driver. And I don't feel
Andy?
that this layout, oh, sorry. I don't feel that this layout is at all conducive to their huge trucks. And I feel that in some of these streets, they're going to have to back up. There's no turnaround area for them. And to me, that's problematic. And I feel that some sort of reduction in some units needs to be applied to allow turning radiuses for these trucks going into that community. safety.
Yes, we did have solid waste, your departments that review this stuff. They did give us the go-ahead, and those are the kind of things that are worked out in much more detail at the site plan stage and the final development plan stage. So yes, we are committed to providing enough room. We comply with the code, every requirement of the code, including the trash and refuse requirements. And the city staff has looked at that, town staff has looked at that.
City staff is not in the business of trash hauling, and these are private haulers in the town of Prescott Valley. There
Right.
are many of them. I feel that this should be brought to their attention for input. It's that critical and that severe in this tight-knit community.
Okay, we note that, and yes, the town reviews for whether or not a truck can get in there and pick up the refuse. And we absolutely will comply with any requirements that the town asks us about. Thank you.
Commissioner Evans?
Yeah,
Just a question again on guest parking.
yes.
What are the street widths?
I believe these are 26-foot wide streets. Sorry, they meet city standard for public roadways. I believe they're 28 feet.
Okay, no, thank you.
Yeah.
And will there be prohibition on street parking for visitors, or will it be daytime street parking? I'm just looking at, I'm an old fat guy who doesn't like to walk very far. If I'm visiting a unit way up here, I'm not going to park at the amenity center and trot up and around. So just what are your street parking requirements? What will they be?
There will be, you will park in a designated space only. There will not be random street parking. And we'll have on-site property management, so it will be enforced.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Rankin?
One question, what was the reason for the decision to do covered patios on the 3-bedroom units and just open doors into the backyard on the 2-bedroom units?
I'm going to let John speak to that, too.
I just want to make sure I understand exactly what you're talking about. Can you flip to the? So go back to the range water. So covered patio, you're speaking to when you come out of the living room there?
Yes.
Why is that covered and why the other one's not? We most likely will cover, these floor plans are still in development, so we likely will cover that 2-bedroom patio as well.
Okay.
Commissioner Griffiths?
Thank you, Chair. Back to this matrix report that maybe was prepared in haste. It says here that the project is intended to... It says the project is intended to develop under one phase. And we've heard that it's going to be in multiple phases.
So I guess what we intend by that is that we will have development start and we'll continue. We'll permit or we'll vertically permit in phases so that we can CO and bring buildings online in increments. But we'll start and continue through is the intent.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rankin?
Could you clarify on, since this is a gated community, are there going to be additional HOA fees to the property, to the renters?
I don't think so.
No, it'll be part of the rent. Now, just to speak to if and when it is converted to a for sale component, if some segment is converted to a for sale component, those homeowners would pay an HOA fee for the services because we would still maintain the maintenance around for those homeowners.
Any other questions of the applicant? Commissioner?
Looking at the property on the north that abuts the new park, Do you have a open space between your units and the park boundaries? Is there any kind of an open space there, a buffer?
Well,
I didn't see anything designated other than
no,
just
I
a trail.
don't see it either. There's only the open space at the northeast there on the detention pond. And then there's trail connectivity,
Right.
but
there's
no open space on the side there.
So it's possible that some of those units that are at the far north could be very close to the park.
Well, it appears there's a wall and some space on the other side of the wall,
Okay.
but the wall is along the property line. So there's a wall, and then there's a little space, and then it looks like there are the sides and then the backs of some units. Yes.
Has anybody brought up a a wildlife trail along there at the other side of your wall?
No?
Okay, just checking.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant?
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Go for it, Commissioner Rutherford.
Looking at the bigger picture, it seems to me that the zoning map change is a vast improvement over the existing zoning. I would be in favor of it for that reason. Would I want to live there? Not necessarily, but that's owner's decision of what product is going to meet the market.
Any other questions of the applicant from the commission? See, Jessica wants to add a few things.
Thank you. If I may, point out that the alternative of a R1MH would be a mobile home park on the area with the fantastic views on the far west side. And the C2 doesn't have very many limitations, so like you had mentioned, it is a much better alternative than what it is zoned today currently. If someone was to come in and propose a mobile home park, they would not need to go through an entitlement process that we're going through today. It would just go straight to final development plan. So I just wanted to point that out and just concur with your comment. Thank you.
All right. At this time, I'm going to open the floor to public participation. I'll just want to, real quick, go kind of into the rules for public participation. Speakers are limited to a 3-minute period. Upon the conclusion of 3 minutes, please promptly finish your remarks. If you wish to comment, please remember that you may only comment on the application that is currently being discussed and not on any other issue. Please direct your pertinent comments to the commission through the chairperson and not to the applicant, staff, or individuals within the audience. Just to let you know, if you do have comments that require a response from the applicant or staff, they will be invited up afterward and they will answer your questions. Please keep your comments brief and to the point. Please try not to repeat what others have already said. Speakers cannot donate their time to another speaker. Comments or outbursts from members of the audience are not permitted. And call to the public is for discussion on anything that has not already been discussed this evening. So at this point in time, we'll open the floor to public comment. To those wishing to comment, please go ahead and come up to this podium. Good evening, sir. Go ahead and state your name for the record.
Tim Reynolds. And actually, I just came by here to see what one of these meetings look like, so it was kind of interesting. Two of you gentlemen made very good points. Parking. So if they're going to only have 40 off-street parking, and then you got to walk the other 30 acres to get to your party, it's going to be pretty limited if it's only on one side. Plus, if there's more than 1 or 2 family gatherings going on, you're going to overwhelm your 40 parking spots. And the developer said there would be no off-street parking because that would be enforced. Very good points, something I think needs to be addressed. One of the other things I always hear about is the alternative. Okay, yes, it may be mobile home parks. Some of them are pretty trashy. Some of them are developed really nice. So just because the alternative is a mobile home park does not necessarily mean white trash living up there on the hillside with 5 or 6 cars on their property. So just do keep that in mind. There are alternatives. Could be mobile home, or it could be rezoned as a single-family home development. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Good evening, sir. Go ahead and state your name for the record.
My name is Mark Steuben, and I live at the opposite end of Jasper from your plan. My wife and I moved here from the terrible state next door 3 years ago because we liked it here. She was born in Phoenix. I'd gone to training at Luke and Williams. And in 32 years in the Air Force, I've lived in a lot of sleazy apartments and some nice places. I just challenge you that you are shaping the future of the valley with what you're allowing to be built and what kind of people you want to attract. And right now, it's very, very difficult to get any doctor's appointment whatsoever unless you go to the emergency room. So if we're not interested in attracting that kind of professional people, we're gonna overwhelm what we have now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other people from the audience wishing to address the commission? Come on up, sir.
I didn't come for this subject, but...
Go ahead and state your name for the record, sir.
My name's David Carty. I didn't come for this one, but last time I was here for the other meeting. And one of the things that you had in your meeting was that you had appointed a committee for affordable living. And they were trying to figure out what they were going to do to make sure people could afford to have living. In my opinion, $2,000 a month, that's a lot of money. And I don't believe that our valley generates that kind of wages for anybody local to afford that. They're going to come up from Phoenix, live here from Phoenix, or drive to Phoenix to work. And so I don't see this where this helps our affordable living for this area at all.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Hello, my name's Mark McIntyre, and your presentation, I'm here for another purpose, but what piqued my interest was that it was stated that there will be about 5.5 million square feet of landscaping. Are there any statistics on what type of water usage that will generate?
And definitely have your question addressed by the applicant. Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll close the floor to public comment. I'll invite the applicant back up.
Thanks. I appreciate the comments. You know, we came up and met, we're going to be in front of the City Council in a couple of weeks. And so we've been thinking about a lot of these issues, and we've set up some meetings where we could get their input, and they had a lot of similar concerns, to be honest with you. Although they were very positive about the project and in favor of it, and one of the councilwomen gave the best description, I thought, of what it means to increase your housing stock. You know, you guys are building a major medical center up here, and that will bring people who can afford to live in these apartments and who want this kind of a lifestyle in this area. Also, you know, people are moving here from other states all the time, and while they have something built in Prescott Valley, they need a place to stay, and this would be a great place. It's a rental community. We were asked by one of the council members to consider offering a short-term rental. But what she said was, you know, the value of this kind of housing is that people who are ready to move up a little bit or have a transition period time where they can afford it can use this. And then the housing that they move out of, other people can move into. So it increases your housing stock, even if it's not affordable in the sense that it's the lower end of the price point. So I just wanted to make that point because I thought it was made by one of your council members better than I had heard it made before. About water for landscaping. We are, as you may know, and actually this came up last time, because we're a for-rent community, under the rules of the state statutes, we could petition the city and really, you know, ask for the city to provide us water. But the city, or the town, I'm sorry, I know you guys are a town. The town was not interested in that wisely and said, please go out and procure your own water supply. And they said, and the town of Prescott Valley uses its effluent and makes its effluent available to a third party that sells water rights, and please work with them. So we did. And that company is called WHAM, and they have the town's effluent, and they have agreed with us. They've taken a look at our plan, and they can see what our water usage is. We have low water usage shrubs, all compliant with the town's code that incorporates these requirements for conservation. So we have it all worked out with them. We know how much water we're going to need. They've agreed that that water is available. So that's the answer on the water. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
And just for the public's information, water's one of the few issues, I know it's, you know, an important issue, but it's an issue that we can't consider when making a decision for a project, and just want to be clear about that. I'll bring it back to the commission. Any further questions, comments? Commissioner Griffiths, microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two things. Miss Mary Grace, our planning and zoning authority is to determine if this is appropriate land use. Where council, they have a far-reaching, wider net to cast than we do. So,
Yes.
And you are absolutely correct. Rental housing units are an up-and-coming thing. I read about it every day. Yes. But again, our decision is to determine if this is an appropriate land use for this parcel. So thank you. I just wanted to state that. And then I have a question for Miss Jessica. And again, going back to this matrix, on page 9, it says proposed land uses. And there's 3, 6, 8 of them. And in those permitted uses, and I'm assuming that this is for your particular parcel, it says home occupations in accordance with the Town of Prescott Valley zoning ordinance. And the next one is child care in the home of 4 or fewer children not related to the residence as an accessory to the primary residential use of the dwelling. Now, under permitted uses, it says all uses not specifically provided for herein are prohibited. Back to Ms. Mary Grace, I would like to have those 2 uses removed. I don't think they should be applicable to this type of development, and I see it causing even more traffic and delivery and parking problems, and kids with playgrounds. So I don't understand how those uses were included in this matrix.
That's an excellent point. I do know that the applicant is working on a more detailed development agreement, and that could be something that they can include in their CC&Rs. And I'll let the applicant speak on it.
Yeah, we're amenable to changing that part of the narrative, and we will be held to the statements in that narrative. So we'd be happy to eliminate those two uses.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for a motion. Is there a motion for approval of zoning map change 23-001, subject to the conditions? Is there, if there's no motion for approval, is there a motion to disapprove zoning map change 23-001?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Rutherford.
I move that we approve the request for zoning map change from R1 MH residential in C2 to RSPAD, located at the northwest corner of Market Street and Great Western Drive,
Okay.
that it is in conformance with the general plan for 2035 and is appropriate with the limitations set forth as conditions by the staff. The conditions are 1 through 6.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rutherford,
Yes.
Commissioner Rankin,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans,
No.
Commissioner Griffiths,
No.
Commissioner Laney, Vice Chairperson King,
No.
Chairperson Zercher.
No. On a vote of 5-2, the motion does not pass. Is there a motion to approve or not approve preliminary development plan 23-001?
Mr. Chairman, why are we voting on approving
That's
a
why I said, is there a
preliminary
motion?
development plan when we haven't approved
I
map
did, that's why
changes that
I said,
makes it legal?
that's why I said if there's a motion to disapprove or approve.
Commissioner, I'll make a motion to disapprove PDP 23-001.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rutherford,
No.
Commissioner Rankin,
No.
Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffiths,
Yes.
Commissioner Laney, Vice Chairperson King,
Yes.
Chairperson Zercher.
Yes. On a vote of 5-2, the motion passes to disapprove PDP 23-001. So moving on to zoning map change 23-002, upon the application of Preston Johnson, agent on behalf of Maticus Hospitality Group, a request for zoning map change from RS Residential and Services to C2 3-3 PAD, Commercial General Sales and Services, Planned Area Development, on approximately 2 acres, located on north of State Route 69 on the northwest corner of the frontage road and Glassford Hill Road. Preliminary Development Plan 23-002, upon the application of Preston Johnson, agent on behalf of Maticus Hospitality Group, a request for preliminary development plan approval for development of a proposed hotel on approximately 2 acres located north of State Route 69 on the northwest corner of Frontage Road and Glassford Hill Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Appreciate the time. The item-
Ernest, go ahead and state your name for the record, just so, you know, we have.
Ernest Ruby, Deputy Director.
Thank you, sir.
2 items before you. One's a zone map change, 23-002. The other is a preliminary development plan, 23-002. The zone map change is for the parcel, the northernmost parcel here, as you can see on your graphic. It's the parcel that fronts on Horizon, and that's the subject of the zone map change. The preliminary development plan covers the entire area, and it would include the parking lot and the hotel itself. From this overhead, you can see where the site is located. The northernmost parcel, the square, if you will, is the zone map change parcel. The other is the C2 parcel already, does not need the zone map change. One thing to keep in mind is if the project were reversed and the hotel was going on the rectangular piece next to the dental office, and the parking lot were going on the northernmost parcel, we wouldn't need to be before you tonight. This is an allowed by right use, and that could move ahead just as stated there. But the administration, the town asked the applicant to flip those to create that symmetry that you see across from the Hampton Inn Suites. There will actually be the Welcome to Prescott Valley sign that will be in that area, so it will kind of provide the symmetry to the downtown core, and that's why that was being asked for. We've been over this at our previous meeting, so I won't get into too much detail unless the commission has a lot questions that need to be answered. The applicant and the agent are here as well. This is the site plan, and as you can see on the highlighted area there, that's actually a left turn out only. That was the result of not only conversations before the commission at our previous meeting, but also at a subsequent neighborhood meeting that was held on May 25th, 2003, that exhibited this revised site plan. And as a result of that meeting, it was felt that most of the traffic concerns could be mitigated. Now, the applicant also extended the offer to even close down that access onto Pleasant View Drive, or completely to force the access onto just the frontage road. And that's a possibility. I'll let the applicant speak to that. But in any regards, the second neighborhood meeting was held in this room to an overflow crowd, and there was much discussion that took place. There is the issue of the traffic onto actually the frontage road off of the secondary roads, but it was felt that with that left turn out only or no turn onto Pleasant View, that traffic would be redirected onto the frontage road. That wasn't a favored option of our traffic engineer, our engineering manager. He felt there was going to be some complications with that much traffic onto the frontage road, just for your knowledge. But that being said, the request is within the conformity of the general plan. The zoning request is designated on that area, on that parcel. Now, the question arises as to one of the other issues was the bulk and scale of a four-story hotel on that site. And in this graphic, you can see how it's going to be directly across from the Hampton Inn, which is also a four-story hotel site along Glassford Hill. So as I mentioned earlier, the symmetry of the entrance into Prescott Valley would be identified there. And I'd like to point out on this slide as well, you see some barren dirt along Glassford Hill in this photograph. The applicant has agreed to landscape that area and to provide pedestrian enhancements there. As you can see from the landscape plan here, that entire area to the right, top right corner is part of that dirt area, if you will, that vacant area that the applicant is going to landscape above town standards to create a pedestrian walkway on that side of the street. As I think you mentioned, Mr. Chair, these are two different applications. One is the zone map change. The other is the preliminary development plan. Preliminary development plans, if approved or recommended for approval by the commission, will move forward to town council for the final modifications and details, if you will. Staff has looked at this project. We agree with the traffic analysis that's been done, and whereas it's not perfect, It's probably the best we're going to get for this particular project. As I mentioned earlier, our engineering manager was not 100% in favor of dumping that traffic just onto the frontage road from the parking lot. But with the closure of, or left turn out only, and or possibly the closure of Pleasant View entirely, that's the only option we have at this point. By right, as I mentioned earlier, the project could have been reversed, and the hotel go on the southern portion and the parking lot on the northern portion. If that was the case, this would move directly to town council as a final development plan. There would be no need for the zone map change, and there'd be actually no need for the preliminary development plan, because it'd be an allowed by right use. It would move directly to town council. So with that being said, staff is recommending approval based on the changes that occurred, based on the second neighborhood meeting held on May the 25th, where some of the traffic problems were alleviated with that left turn out only, or the closure of that street there. So we are recommending approval based on those changes. As I mentioned earlier, the bulk and the scale of the project are going to be exactly what they are. It's a 4-story building. It mirrors, if you will, the Hampton Inn on the other side of the street. And we are recommending that the preliminary development plan, as well as the zone map change, be approved at this time. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them. The applicant and agent are here as well.
Ernest, just want to, for educational purposes, so currently on the parcel that is zoned RS, what are some of the other uses that could be currently built by matter of right there?
Thank you for asking, Mr. Chair. Matter of right on that 1-acre parcel could be constructed, for example, an apartment building. At this point, I believe it would be in the vicinity of 14 units that could be built on that 1-acre site, and the access would have to be off of Horizon, because it would be, for example, a separate parcel with no access to the southern parcel whatsoever. So it could be a up to 14-unit apartment complex with that traffic emptying onto Horizon Drive.
Okay. Commissioner Rankin?
The option with the turning driveway coming out, or no driveway at all there that you were talking about, if you reverse and put the hotel on the southern portion and leave parking up above, is that parking then, is that also going to be going out onto a Horizon?
No, sir, not necessarily. The traffic could still front onto the frontage road, if you will, with those entrances there. I think to be avoided at all costs is any entrances onto Horizon that would further impact the neighborhood. So I don't think it would still remain as a secondary fire emergency access only, Commissioner.
Any other questions from the Commission of Staff?
Hello,
King.
Mr. Ruby. Thank you for your presentation. I have a quick question regarding demand for a hotel in Prescott Valley. Has there been any collaboration with the city of Prescott and possibly their tourism committee to understand what the need might be for additional hotels in the Tri-City area?
Excellent question, Commissioner King. The town has looked at overflows from, for example, the Prescott Rodeo, some of the other things that occur outside of our jurisdictional boundaries. And typically that overflow comes into Prescott Valley for people to have some close proximity to where their events are being held. One of the things that the town is promoting, particularly with the Glassford Hills purchase, is ecotourism. So in other words, attracting tourism to town that are going to take advantage of the natural amenities that we are proposing. And with Glassford Hill being proposed as an open space in perpetuity, that opens that area up for things like hiking, mountain biking. There's been some talk of even the town hosting mountain bike races or things of that nature, which would attract people into town. And I think you make a great point in how many hotel rooms are required. It's been advanced through our economic development department that there is a need for the hotel rooms and that they would be filled to a capacity during events, but also during off-peak hours as well. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. So I went out and tried to do some research myself on this to understand maybe if there is a particular demand for hotels. And when I initially was maybe opposed to this project, once I started to ask people and get the research that I was looking for, I come to find that there's actually a need for hotels, you know, in the Tri-City area. And because there is the need, and because Prescott Valley is unique in the fact with the way that the taxes are done, 300 plus rooms would be needed in the Tri-City area. So because of that and because of the research that you and I have done, I think that this would be a potential really good thing for our town. And for, you know, we have that one legacy awesome Finlay Center, right, that's also bringing tons of community, tons of people up from the valley that need places to stay. And so if we are able to home them here in Prescott Valley, I think that would be a good thing for tourism.
Thank you for those comments, Commissioner King. You're absolutely right. It creates or helps to create a critical mass for our downtown so that people that are staying in the downtown can visit the restaurants and the other shops, the theater, the Finley Toyota Center, things that are occurring in the area. So by bringing those people into our core area, our downtown core, we're providing them an opportunity not only to stay local, but to spend local. And I think that's the whole process for our ecotourism movement moving forward.
And the other part of that I think is very important here is the conformity to the land use, because there is a hotel right across the street from it, and because there is the possibility of a hotel being, without having to come to planning and zoning, put up in the space right directly next to it. I think obviously, you know, our job here is to look at conformity and what that might bring. So for that reason, I think this might be a positive thing for the community.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Seeing none, I'm going to invite the applicant up. And go ahead and state your name again for the record.
My name's Saki Reindersma. I'm the architect of record for the project. I also own the firm SRA 360. We developed the design and presentation for this project. Thank you very much, Commissioners, for allowing me to speak here today and to address the Commission once again.
And Saki, I just want to, before you start, I just want to say thank you. I mean, you held another community meeting, and I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
You didn't have to, and you did so, and so I really want to say thank you. And just, you know, I'm curious to hear how that went.
Well, actually, we had our meeting, and I thank you again for that, and it was actually a quite lively affair. We actually had some of the staff members from the city there to help explain the situation and the project that we have we also put a larger sign up there so everybody could see it. I don't know if you guys saw that, but we actually really tried to make sure everybody knew and, you know, put that on there. The time wasn't listed, so we added that at the end. Which was kind of funny, but we made sure that got on there. And then we also had the traffic engineer available by phone so that people could ask any questions. So he made a presentation on that, and the landowner that the Maticus Group is buying it from was also present, as well as the agent. So we tried to bring in force to answer any questions. I think that some of the people may have been you know, encouraged to hear what we had to say. I don't think the opposition really changed. I think some people were still very much against having a hotel here. There are a few others that mentioned that, you know, they should look at the alternative because there could be apartments built there, and that may be able to increase the traffic and not really help the situation of what they had and what the town needed and what that commercial corridor was. But I don't know if it completely swayed them. They were encouraged to hear that we have the you know, opportunity to left out only on Lake Pleasant, so that I think that was really a good thing to have so that the people don't go down the street. They're still worried that they might anyway. Or if we block it off completely, which, you know, we could do as well. That wouldn't be our number one option. Our number one option is to make that left turn only, which we showed on that plan. And then we opened it up for a membership, that people could actually use the pickleball court and the pool if they decided to, through that 300, foot area. Maybe that's 40 or so homes. They would basically, join as a member, and then basically use that as an opportunity. Some people like that. Some of them thought we were bribing them, but that's really wasn't the point in that. It was really to open up the community to hopefully have some, encouraging, thoughts. But I'll leave that to the people. They're all here to speak about the project. So, but that was really I had, and thanks again for the the neighborhood meeting. It was really fun. I made some friends, and I think people enjoyed our presentation. So,
Any questions of the applicant from the commission? Commissioner Laney?
When you were here before, I asked about a meeting room in your hotel, and you said you would consider it.
yeah, we'd look at that. So we're limited on area, so I don't know if we're going to be able to have like a room for that. But we did look at it, but with the the Hilton Homewood Suites program, they don't really have a room, and we were supposed to have so much area for people to congregate and meet and talk, and for the breakfast area and then the fitness area. So we don't really have enough room on the land to do that. But
Well, I appreciate you looking into it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions of the applicant from the commission? Zaki, thank you.
You
If
bet.
anyone has any questions from public hearing, I'll invite you back up, sir. So at this point in time, I'll open the floor to public participation. The same rules I read earlier apply. Those wishing to address the commission, come on up. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Randall Erickson. My wife and I moved up here from Phoenix in 1985 to get out of the big city. We lived in Prescott in the Pines for a year, and then we bought our home and have lived there for 37 years, 3 houses up from Horizon on Pleasant View. And we felt it was a good area to move to. It was rural, and we had a spotty amount of neighbors. Of the first 10 houses, 4 people have been here as long as we have with their families, and I think one other one about 20 years. All the houses filled in, all the lots. Shopping came, so it became suburban. Now it's starting to threaten to be city. I think it's a really bad place for a hotel to be built. The hotel is probably going to be up there, the top rooms. And our home's going to be out there a ways. First house won't be much farther than you guys. The access to it, how to get in and out, is very bad. It's on that S-curve that's 15 miles an hour because it's so dangerous coming out of Pleasant View onto the frontage road. 18 years ago, on Glassford, coming out of that frontage road, my wife was broadsided by a DUI driver. Broke 3 vertebrae. The car was demolished. The other car was demolished. It plugged up all of Glassford, both sides, the size that it is now, for at least an hour before she got out, and then probably another hour after. Down the end of Pleasant View, I had a car hit my front of my vehicle coming back from the errand on Horizon, and I've made that turn onto Pleasant View thousands of times. And the word I got was up by Jenny's, I think it's Jenny's as a restaurant, up the frontage road, a child was run over in the last year. So now we're talking about, according to, and I haven't seen a traffic study, according to a traffic study for the Home 2 suites, it's going to add 376 daily trips, 220 evening trips. and that's a 118-room hotel versus this one's 90. So the traffic is going to increase so much, and no matter what they do, like the turnout curb they're putting in to direct the traffic is going to go into oncoming traffic.
Mr. Erickson, your time's expired. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Pardon me?
Your time's expired, but please go
Okay,
ahead.
well, there's a whole lot of issues, particularly for traffic. Down our street, too much traffic, and the whole area. It's right near the intersection that is 25 total lanes, the busiest intersection in the Tri-City area. So it's going to be bad for first responders, traffic, and I think it's going to be bad for everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Cindy Aubrey. I live at 3076 North Pleasant View. Having a hotel in a residential area is unbelievable. You wouldn't want it in your backyard. Why should we have it in our backyard? Secondary thing, I talked to some fire department people. You're supposed to have 1.5 times the height of the building where the fire truck has to be away from that building if it's on fire. There's no way 24 feet is going to cut it. 74 feet is the total of 48 feet and 6 inches. There's no way that parking lot, you can get a fire engine in there properly. 26 feet was told for a fire truck to turn around or even to be able to exit, you're at 24 feet. All against the rules and regulations according to CAZ Fire Department. Second of all, you tell me, like you come out of Walmart behind Kohl's, it says no left turn. How many people make a left-hand turn? They're still going to come down our street, even if that is a left or right hand, whatever. They're still going to come down our street. These people have earned the right to have full rights to their homes, safety, the value of their homes. They have worked their butts off. I spent a whole week shoveling rock to make my home better. I think these people deserve full value of their homes. Anyone who finds out there's a hotel in our residential area, they're not going to get full value of their homes. It's just not fair to take what these people have worked for. And my old man included. He's worked his butt off to own this home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Dan Ness, 3025 Pleasant View Drive. We're starting to cover a lot of the real touchy subjects, the height of the building, looming over our neighborhood, the traffic on our street, let alone 69. They're kind of two separate issues. One's very personal because you can turn that traffic in or the parking lot into oncoming traffic, which makes no sense. No matter what, you know that you have to go down Pleasant View to get to the Civic Center, to get to Walmart, any of it. There's no other way around that. Because otherwise they have to go out onto 69 all the way down around. So that's not likely to happen. We have no sidewalks. We have no center lines. We have chip-sealed streets. It isn't designed to handle that kind of traffic whatsoever. I did have another concern that Homewood Suites by Hilton in Mass are converting to apartment dwellings all over. I mean, just glancing, I came up with like 10 of them. So as soon as there's a downturn in our economy, we'll have a 94-unit apartment complex. Just look it up, just on the internet. It's easy to find. So we got, our traffic, the 69 traffic, possible conversion, traffic that is not designed to come down that street. She mentioned the evaluation of our homes, which all is very, very true. Now, the threat or, to, switch this over and put it on the other lot, you're still going to have the same traffic issues. I don't know if there's a height restriction on this building, given that zoning. I thought it was 38 feet, and they're proposing 48 feet as a 4-story. So, we can only do so much to tell you how much this really doesn't belong there. Initially, I was more than happy to say, find them a good spot. This isn't it. Help the owner find the right kind of people to move in there. But we changed this. There's places along the frontage that, we could change, and you could have high-rise there. You could have a high-rise on the other side of Alliance, and that's not what we want. The city deserves better than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
So I tried to follow your timeline and your rules on your 3-minute, and I knew there was no way I was going to get through what I have to say in 3 minutes. So I'm going to respond to what he said on a couple things. That this hotel goes with the hotel across the street, it makes things prettier. That shouldn't be a good reason to build a motel. And then the hotel across the street is not next to houses, it's next to commercial. And where they're building this one would be right next to the houses. From that point, I'm going to stop so I don't get told 3 minutes. I have everything here on paperwork written down, and I'm going to hand them out to you. I have each one of you a copy, and you can read it in your own time, and then I don't waste your 3 minutes.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm still Mark McIntyre, and I want to qualify my being here as a resident of 34 years of Unit 1. I moved from Southern California, which was fast becoming an undesirable place to raise my 2 boys, and I took on the scoutmaster of our local troop and raised 2 Eagle Scouts and stayed on for another 32 years to produce probably in this community 150 Eagle Scouts, none of whom I know live here, including my own 2 sons. What you're offering us is, and I've never ever heard of the town lawyer threatening us with 120 high-rise apartments and high-density housing, and this is the best of the alternatives you can have. And being bought with, oh, you can have gym memberships. I am offended. I am offended. What needs to happen here is probably a hotel, but not in the town's oldest neighborhood. Unit 1 is the oldest neighborhood in town. And all of the residents, we are now the age of old people, and we are not as capable of getting out and pounding. I spent the whole day going up and down Lynx Lake Drive, talking to people, talking to my neighbors, trying to tell people this isn't what we need. And really, it's in your own definition of RS. It's to provide the orderly and compatible development in a transitional area between residential and non-residential districts, to establish and preserve access for the commercial facilities which are especially useful in close proximity to residential neighborhoods, such as gyms, such as the dentist. But I don't need a 4-story hotel. My neighbors don't need a 4-story hotel. And it is an undesirable impact of use in our neighborhood and won't be a service. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name's Jerry Fulmer. I'm at 2934 North Pleasant View. I just purchased the house in December, and the realtor said nothing at all about there being a hotel being put up there. Now, somebody else has said here a few minutes ago that we needed another hotel. Right? Well, and it's supposed to bring some kind of satisfaction, I guess, with the other one straight across. Well, the other one doesn't have houses built all around it. This one would have. Our streets are already so unmanned by the police department. We have cars flying up and down that road every day. And it just makes you wonder how long is it going to be before some kid gets run over on a bicycle. It's not what I moved here for. And if it was in your backyard, you'd feel the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Robert Galleon. Appreciate you all being here. I'm sure at this point you'd rather be at home with your families, but appreciate your doing what you do. And Mr. Reindersma, I think he's a fine gentleman, no hard feelings. I'd just like to reiterate, it was touched upon a little bit, I feel my property value will devalue about 20% if I try to sell it. And so I guess compassion, I'd like you to have some compassion, for us, that our property value is probably going to go down. And I'm not going to talk anymore about traffic. You've heard enough about that. Just would like you to consider this if you lived where I live. Be compassionate about it for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Question.
Go for it. Go ahead and state your name, though, for the record.
Kimberly Owens. So when the hotel is done, would it provide pool access for the residents?
That's a question we'll definitely get the applicant to answer for you. He can't answer right now, though.
Oh, okay. All right. So I
Okay.
was wondering, would it actually help the residents and increase their
Go ahead and speak a
property
little bit closer to the microphone.
value? Would it increase their property value if they had access to the facility with the appraisal of their homes?
Definitely have the applicant address that.
Okay,
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Donna Flinders. I live on Lynx Lake. I'm not on one of the streets that is completely impacted, but what's going to happen is, the thing that disturbs me is we've all told all the problems, but nobody's ever really addressed how these people in the hotel can go north on Glassford Hill. They have to go through the neighborhood. I don't care if they use Pine View, Pleasant View, Lynx Lake, Mountain View. Eventually, they have to turn north and go out on Sunset, and there's really no other way for them to go north, and that's where I would think 33% at least would be going north. Everything is north, so I don't understand how this ever passed the traffic, whatever they are, traffic committee. It doesn't make sense for a business to have to dump out into a residential neighborhood like that, and that is, again, it's a code change. So I'm against the code change because, getting it rezoned, because it doesn't seem to me like it's fair for the traffic going through the neighborhood. Plus, I'm not fond of the idea. I can't help that.
Being honest, thank you.
But I understand that there's hotels needed, and I understand they're being built all over the place. But there has to be a better place, a solid piece of land that's like, I don't know. This seems like it's kind of patchwork. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, seeing nobody else, I'm going to close the floor to public comments. At this time, I'll invite the applicant up. I also would like to invite staff up after. I have a few questions for you, Ernest.
Again, my name is Saki Rindersma. I'm the architect of record. Actually, I love this communication with the community and the neighborhood because this is the American way to basically...
Saki, go ahead and speak a little bit more.
This is the American way to speak our First Amendment and to speak what we feel and what's needed and what's in their hearts. And that I actually truly enjoy and believe is what's needed in these discussions. So I really applaud everybody that came and spent their time each time and discuss this project. I was a Cub Master myself, a Scoutmaster. I led the troop. I was committee chair as well, and I really thank the gentleman that basically was a Scoutmaster before, and I really appreciate his communication and period. Robert had a sign last time. He had no hotel. I'm surprised he didn't bring the sign this time. I actually thought that was quite fun. But to go on with the fire access, with the question, the crash gates allow the fire trucks to escape. They don't have to turn around, so that turnaround radius thing. And the same thing would happen on the left out, or if it was blocked off completely, would have that access as well. The question about the spacing of the fire truck to the building, there's requirements for a ladder truck. They can't be closer to 15 feet to the building, but they can't be more than 30 feet away. So they have to stay within that zone to basically reach it if they need a ladder to get up to that height. So the driveway apron of 24 feet that we have, 26 feet, would be adequate to basically provide that ladder access. So that's a perfect definition. I also wanted to point out that the windows on that one, I call it the scorpion tail, that kind of turns around, that faces the church, there are no windows on that side. The units face the north and south, so there's actually going to be no windows there. You have the same thing happens on the far corner where the windows face out towards the street, so there'll be no windows on that side. So there's only 4 units that basically face horizon on that top 4 floors, obviously, but bottom floor doesn't get to see the venue as well because they're on the bottom floor. So there's only about 8 units that would actually look out towards horizon to block their view. The other windows would be blocked by the tail that comes around, so they actually are looking in towards the other units. So the visibility with them looking out on a 4-story is going to be limited, and I didn't know if anybody really understood that part about the design. The other question was the pool access. Yes, we mentioned that, and that would be available by membership to the homes in the 300-foot radius that we provided, as well as the use of the pickleball. So that's it.
Saki, real quick, I'm wondering if you can, address the question. This is a unique area. And yes, the ways going north out of this place, even though with a left turn onto Pleasant View, people are probably going to drive through a residential neighborhood to go north to Sunset. And I appreciate what you've already done with traffic, some of the traffic mitigation things, but what else can you say?
So, we're making it left out only onto that street from Pinnacle. We blocked off Horizon. Obviously, you can come down Frontage Road and make a right and go back up. I mean, it's a free country to use public roads, right? I mean, it is. We're trying to limit that use by the left-hand turnout only. And we also mentioned last month, that we would provide at the counter, at the reception counter, that they would be kind to the people in the neighborhood with a flyer that every person that basically gets to the hotel to not drive in the neighborhood, right? To basically respect their privacy and respect their usage and do everything they could to not drive north up through there. We would provide a map that shows the way to go if that would be more advantageous for them. Obviously, it's still up to the person that reads the flyer and respects, the community, and there could be some and could be not, but maybe that would help some of the percentage of not, going up through the neighborhood. I don't know for sure, right? I mean, that's just something that I would offer as, I mentioned it last time. I don't know if anybody really picked up on that, so.
Commissioner Griffiths?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Up where the fire emergency access gate only is, Mr. Saki, is there any way that area can be converted to allow exit traffic from the hotel, then going out to Horizon Lane and turning right?
I don't know the answer to that question, other than that gate is going to be locked, and it would be crash gate only. It would have a lock on it that has a Knox box. So, but to answer your question, yes, that could be a possibility, but we did talk to planning about it, and they weren't really going to be able to cross that utility line that runs through there to make that right turn out to go that direction. So I don't think that's a good possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You bet.
Ernest, a question came up about height, and I was hoping you could answer that. Also, knowing that these parcels border existing commercial and also churches, wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about the zoning with the churches, you know, that border this parcel, and of course are on the other side of the street of Pleasant View from this parcel.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the allowed height in any district is 35-foot maximum. Adjacent to this proposed project are the churches along Pleasant View. They're an allowed right in a residential area, and that's why they were allowed to develop where they're at. The pad designation allows flexibility in design for projects, and that's why the pad is being applied to this project. It would allow for the height to go beyond and above the 35-foot, and I believe the 48-foot is the height that's being requested. So that is part of the pad allocation for flexibility in development.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Griffiths?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking at this exit only left out, where we said that we can have a left out and or block it off, correct, Ernest?
Yes, ma'am.
I almost feel, commissioners, that it should be blocked off, because then we're not taking any chance of those drivers trying to make a right-hand turn going down Pleasant View. Then they have to come out on the frontage road. They can go zip up to Glassford and connect to 69. So they can't?
You can, it's a
Oh,
right,
you
it's a
can't.
right turn only. It takes you back to 69.
Okay, so I have no traffic DNA in my head, I'm sorry. Okay, but I would still prefer to have that left out shut off.
Ma'am, that is a possibility. I believe I have spoken to the applicant, but that was going to be about a 2-foot curb that it forces cars to go left onto Pleasant View. But I will defer to the applicant as to whether they wanted to shut that off completely to allow that traffic only to go onto the frontage road. And you're absolutely right. When things are developed, for example, the pork chop on Glassford Hill, people aren't supposed to go around that thing and over to Pav Way, but they do. And that's, you know, not something that we normally would see, but there are people that are going to do that. Now, if you ask me if this was a left turn out lane only, if people would try to maneuver out and around, they probably would at some point. I can't deny that. So again, I'll defer back to the architect and the applicant as to whether they would be willing to close that off completely to allow no left turns.
Is there any area where we could put signage up that says 269 on this hotel property without directing them through the neighborhood?
I believe Saki had touched upon that about having flyers and maps inside the hotel.
Not flyers, I mean real
And
town.
I believe that they might be agreeable to something like that, but again, I would defer to the architect.
I mean, that could be a,
Yeah, we'll have Saki come
Okay,
back up.
perfect.
You know, Ernest, this did come up, and I just want, you know, to briefly address it. Any plans that come before us and anything, the fire department does actually have you know, the ability to review and make their mark and approve them and so forth. So this definitely, I want to make sure, because it did come up, that this plan was definitely approved by the prevention staff at CAFBA.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, you're absolutely right. We begin our process with what's called the initial project review. At that point, CAFMA is called in. They evaluate the preliminary plans. After that, they submit comments to staff regarding turning radiuses, distance of the buildings, where the fire for the FTC is going to be located, and how access is going to be to that. So they haven't had an opportunity to not only review the turning radiuses in the parking lot, but also the distances between the FTC and where they would necessarily need to be for a fire if it broke out on one of the upper floors.
Thank you. Any other questions from staff real quick? All right, seeing none, I'll have the applicant come back up. So Commissioner Griffiths had 2 pointed questions there. Go for it.
Okay, so we can put a sign, as Commissioner Griffiths has mentioned, to basically show the weight as 69. I mean, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. You know, that's fine. The left-hand turnout is a nice opportunity for the guests to basically do on that. And actually, I was thinking maybe in a right turn, so if you made it a little wider, it's left out right in. But I'm not sure exactly if the left out only really prevents anybody from going north if they come down the frontage road and they make a right. I mean, you know, it just delays them from going that way. I think the signage and education of the guests is really the best way to do that. But it will be a curb. It's not going to be striped. It's not a striping thing. So there is bumps to basically prevent anybody going that, you know, from making a right turn. Okay.
Commissioner Griffiths, did you have anything to add?
No, I feel that most people will go left. I truly do. I feel that we're going to have those few that will try to circumvent that. We see it every day with traffic, but I feel that most everybody will go left, and I'm okay with that.
Any other questions from the commission? All right, seeing none, thank you. We'll bring it back to the commission for further comments and our motion. Any other comments? Commissioner Rutherford?
Chairman, I'd like to do a very brief real property 101 for the benefit of the people who are feeling the strong emotion about their neighborhood. We aren't without sympathy for that. But there is such a thing as real property rights, and the owner has a right to develop his land according to the existing zoning. And so if you feel you're being threatened or blackmailed, the property owner has a right to use the existing zoning, which would flip the arrangement of the units or an apartment building, which could actually be worse. You have to be careful about what you ask for. The alternative, if you want this land to be vacant, is for the town to buy it. Because if they don't approve what's allowed by the zoning, it is a taking of a real property interest. And I don't think as taxpayers you want to buy that property. So the owner has a right to do something with it according to the existing zoning or a changed zoning.
Any other comments? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve zoning map change 23-002 with the subject to the conditions?
Commissioner, I'll make the motion to approve ZMC 23-002 under the conditions and send it on to the council.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rutherford,
Yes.
Commissioner Rankin,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffiths,
Yes.
Commissioner Laney, Vice Chairperson King,
Yes.
Chairperson Zercher.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve preliminary development plan 23-002, subject to the conditions?
I'll move that we approve preliminary development plan 23-002, subject to the conditions that staff has outlined.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rutherford,
Yes.
Commissioner Rankin,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Commissioner Griffiths,
Yes.
Commissioner Laney, Vice Chairperson King,
Yes.
Chairperson Zercher.
Yes. Moving on to item number 9, called public consideration and discussion of comments from the public. Those wishing to address the Planning and Zoning Commission need not request permission in advance. Action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Anybody wishing to address the commission? Seeing no comments on call to public, we'll go to item number 10, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you.